Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour with your hosts, Derek and Jade.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in and welcome to episode number 7 of the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. Again, my name is Derek with DP Films Productions.
My name is Jade with Jess's Promised Events. Today we chat with Rick Comstock of Avow Ceremonies, an incredible wedding officiant here along the Central Coast.
That's right. This is going to be a great episode. So grab a drink, take a seat, and let's get to it.
Hey, Rick. Thanks for being on a show.
Hi, Jade. I'm honored to be part of your broadcast today.
Yeah. How's your quarantine life?
For me particularly, it's terrible because I'm wired to interact with people. That feeds my soul when I can have conversations with people. And so to be isolated like this is killing me. But I mean, obviously it's all a matter of perspective. There are people who are in really some really hard places. But again, for all of us, I think it's difficult because we love being around other people and we can't do that.
Yeah, definitely agree. So just to kick things off, Rick, can you tell the people, who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it?
Yes. Yeah, my name is Rick Comstock. I'm a wedding officiant. I have the privilege of marrying people. Like the coolest job. I appreciate all my vendor friends and everything they do. They're amazing. Florists, caterers, DJs, videographers, coordinators, caterers, all of the, rental companies are amazing. But I really feel like officiants have the best job of the whole day. We're right there in the moment when we get these two people to express their love to each other and get to marry them. So, and I've been doing it I'm a retired pastor. I pastored for, a total of 40 years, but 29 years as a lead pastor. So I've done, weddings for years. And it's only since about 2014 that I was like a full-time wedding officiant. So, I get to do like 60 to 70 weddings a year, and everyone is amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. That must be super fulfilling, getting to marry that many couples.
Yeah, that's a lot of weddings.
So the thing is, I meet people I would never meet.
Yeah.
I would meet people from all over the world. I mean, last year I had weddings with couples from Germany,
Wow,
China, and Australia, right? I'd never meet them. I would never meet half the people, that get married here on the Central Coast who live on the Central Coast or live in, the Bay Area or LA. I get to meet great people. I get to share in the best day of their life. I get to perform weddings at beautiful venues, and I work with great vendors like you. So there's nothing not like about my job.
that's awesome.
That's so cool.
So we all have a story on how we got started with weddings, and you kind of went into yours a little bit, but how did you get started, like, officiating weddings?
Yeah, officially.
Yes, officially officiating weddings.
Obviously, that's part of a pastor's role. A priest or pastor is going to perform weddings. But I think when I was thinking about retiring, I retired in 2016. So a couple of years before that, I thought I got to do something, and I love people. I'm a people, love interacting with people. So I thought, well, I think I'll look into being, an officiant. So what happened is that Sean Dosman from Epic Entertainment, Bob Stock, DJ Bob, and a couple of I started meeting these vendors at a couple of weddings I did, and I just connected with them. We became friends, and they said, "Oh, you should maybe if you're going to retire, do this more often." And I'm thinking, I think you're right. So really, I think people like Sean and people like Bob, and that's Scott Muir. I started meeting all these great people. They kind of were an impetus for me to just kind of, really move into this like a second career. So that's kind of 2014, 15. I started really doing this full time, as it were. And thanks to them, their encouragement.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. And then I was also wanting to know, what was your first wedding like? Like, how did that come about?
Oh man, it was way
your first one.
Probably before your listeners were even born. It was probably like in the early 80s, right? And I'm sure I was incredibly nervous. If I'm not mistaken, I actually I'm trying to think. It was in Santa area someplace up in Northern California, and I'm sure it was probably in a church. And I don't really remember specifically, but I'm sure that I was incredibly nervous because it was my first one. And you don't want to mess up. If no matter who you are as a vendor, you don't want to mess up. But if you have a speaking role, if you're up front and you're leading the whole thing, you really don't want to mess up and the names or say the wrong name or stumble over words. So I'm sure I was really nervous, but apparently I must have done all right because I'm still doing it. I guess if I'd have done a really bad job, I would probably have thought, well, this is not for me. I'm not going to do weddings anymore. So I guess it must have turned out all right.
I'm sure you did really amazing.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. Like, you are the front man. You're the voice of the whole ceremony. I'm just like behind the camera capturing if you mess up.
No, the officiant kind of sets the tone for the whole wedding day.
Agreed.
That's why I say people like you and Colton and Patrick, because you can make me look good if I do mess up.
That's true.
But I tell couples, I say, I really believe that every vendor is important. I mean, they're so talented. All your florists, your caterers, your photographers, everybody's talented, right? Your DJs, your videographers, and everybody's really important. But I like to tell couples, I'll say, I may not be the most important vendor of your day, but I'm the most necessary. Because without me, it's just a party, right?
Yeah.
Without me, without Paul Howell, without Jane Simon, without, Janice Maring, without my other wedding vendor friends, without these other folks, no one's getting married, So, and the thing is, everything builds up to the ceremony and everything launches from the ceremony. Mm-hmm. So this is the focal point of the whole day. So, yeah, so you really want it to be good because, again, everything stops for that, 15, 20 minutes. And the focal point is the bride and the groom in up front and the person who's giving direction to the ceremony. So, yeah, you hope it's good because you don't want to – because people are going to be talking about – they will forget, I guarantee you, a week after it's over, they'll forget about the food, even if the food was amazing. They won't remember what color the flowers were, right?
Yeah.
And the DJ talk about the DJ, but after a week or so, even the dancing will be all. But they will, if the guy screws up the ceremony, I guarantee they'll be talking about that. So
yeah, that'll be remembered.
Well, it's definitely always a pleasure working with you. You always do a really great job, and I love how you tie in all the personal touches with the couples. It's definitely, you really got it down.
Nailed it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I was curious. So when did you know you wanted to become an officiant full time? Because like you said, you were a pastor before, and then you transitioned into weddings like full time completely. How did that transition? Yeah,
again, I think it was probably around 2014, 15. Fortunately, I'm really grateful for my health. I feel like I have a lot of energy. I'm vibrant, and since I am. Really my personality and temperament, I'm wired to really connect with people. And so I knew when I retired from pastoral ministry, I needed something, I couldn't, I thought about, I have a friend who owns a pretty significant insurance and investment agency. And I talked about going to work for him. And I even took some classes to kind of get into, sales and stuff and, do some, and after I took a couple of courses and I thought, this is not me. Yeah. It's at the computer and trying to figure out, long-term life insurance for someone. So that's just not me. I need the energy that I get when I connect with people. And I thought, what better way to do that than to continue to do something I'm already doing, but only do it on a larger scale.
Right.
And I'm always, every week, I'm always, I'm on couples with Zoom or FaceTime or Skyping. I'm meeting couples. Well, not now, but I'm meeting for lunch or for coffee. We're talking about weddings. I'm constantly, connecting with couples and getting feedback and hearing their stories and working with them to create a ceremony. And so I thought, this really fulfills the need I have of community and conversation and connection with people. So I think this is it was a perfect segue from what I was doing, on a part doing it full time because, again, of the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Your job. I couldn't do your job. You could get me, Derek, you could get me a camera and I pointers, but I couldn't do your job. You're gifted uniquely for that. Just like Jade's uniquely gifted. I tell my clients that all your vendors are important, but I really feel like your coordinator is the most important because they really pulls everything together, right? They're the hub. And although I have some skills, I couldn't do what she does. I couldn't do what Amanda Holder does or Nina Johansson or Sarah Angelique or any number of other, I couldn't do that. I'm just not one way. And that's what I so much appreciate. Our industry and the people on the Central Coast are amazing because all the people I work with, they're so gifted and they have the unique gifts and talents and what they do. And that's why they're so good at it.
I definitely agree. Everyone has their unique specialties and it's nice when everyone brings it together. Like you said, too, the planner's like the glue of the whole day.
But we'd be nothing without the team. So
yeah, it's true. It's true, but the team needs a leader. The team needs someone to orchestrate. You're like this. You're like a director of a symphony, right?
Yeah,
it's nice.
Everybody else, all the other vendors, they're the brass section and they're the percussion section and they're the string section. But you're the director. Bring them in and you orchestrate, and that's why. It's amazing to hear the feedback from the brides and grooms who get married on the Central Coast and have a bunch of our vendors working for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're always happy.
It seems like we always manage to not only meet their expectations, but exceed their expectations.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we also wanted to talk about, we know how you do a lot of weddings and sometimes multiple ceremonies on one day, right?
Yeah, right.
Have you always done that?
Yeah, well, I've done 4 weddings in one day, which was a little much. Yeah, a little much. And I've done 3 weddings and a funeral. That was a very interesting day, of course. I'll often do 2. I mean, it's easy for me to do 2. Obviously, my other vendor friends, they're there all day. Your photographers are there all day. A hair and makeup person could probably do a couple of weddings, maybe a day. Right. But pretty much everybody else, your caterers, your DJ, they're pretty much there all day. For me, say I have a 1:00 wedding at Allegretto Resort in Paso Robles, and then I have a 3:30 wedding at Madonna Inn.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have a 6:00 wedding at Holland Ranch. I mean, I can do 2 or 3. It depends on where the venue is and what time they are. Right.
So you really got to plan ahead on the timing of the ceremony too, to make sure that you don't run late to your other ceremony.
I've been so blessed, so fortunate. I've never missed a rehearsal or a wedding. Never, ever, ever. Knock on wood. I mean, I go to Carmel, I go to Bakersfield, Fresno, I go down to Malibu, occasionally to LA. And I'm grateful that I haven't missed. And fortunately, I do have a few backup. I have there's some other wedding coordinators I've connected with, Wayne and Jackie and Janice Marion, and I know that Bob Stock in a pinch, he can do a wedding for me because I'm just thinking if something happens at the very last minute and I can't get there, I want to be able to, pick up my phone and say, help,
Yeah, definitely.
Go up here. Somehow I will get the ceremony to you and you conduct the wedding. So, but fortunately,
that you haven't had to use that.
Yes. And I hope I never do. Do.
That's so cool. And I wanted to go back to that. So how do you prepare for those ceremonies back to back? And how do you also while doing that, how do you make the couple feel special? And I also want to know the story of how you were mentally prepared to do a ceremony to a funeral. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm like all of you. Every couple to me is the most important couple I've ever done a wedding for, right? They're all my priority. And so I make sure that I give as much time and effort and energy as I need to make sure that I create a meaningful and memorable ceremony for every couple whose wedding I perform. Now, if I'm more than one wedding a day, I fortunately, again, it's the way I'm wired. I have enough energy to carry me through 2 or 3 weddings and make the wedding I'm doing at that moment the most important, event, not only of the day, but almost of my life. I mean, I really bring kind of energy to the moment, right? And so the big thing for me is making sure I have the right binder. I have 3 I have 3 really nice leather handmade binders that I had made by someone in Illinois. They're really beautiful.
Nice.
One's black, one's tan, one's burgundy, right? So I will print out my 3 different ceremonies and I'll put them in the different binders, and I'll just, I'll just make sure that I got the right binder. The terrible thing would be to walk up in front. I'm marrying Tom and Allison, and I get up there and I have a binder that, says I'm marrying, Jim.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So I make sure that I obviously have the right ceremony, and I'm really familiar. I mean, I've been working on these ceremonies in some cases for, maybe at least 6 months, 8 months, at least a couple of months. And so we've been refining it, creating the ceremony, refining it. And so by the time the day of the wedding comes, I almost have the ceremony memorized. I mean, I'm really familiar with it, where I can, I don't have to, it's not like I'm reading off a page. I mean, I can put myself into the ceremony because I'm so familiar with it. Mm-hmm. Again, pace and voice intonation and expression, because obviously there's different elements to a ceremony, and some of them require, some of them the reading's going to be a very emotional reading. So there's going to be more your voice, or,
That's
so
really, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I tell the couple that the most important thing when it comes to their vendors, 2 things. The first thing is fit. Fit and follow. I tell couples, listen, if you find vendors that you're comfortable with, then you will not be stressed out on your wedding day.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you need to find, people who fit. It's all about fit, right? And so I'll tell couples, I say, listen, I love talking to you. I really enjoy talking to you. I have that date open. I'd love to officiate your wedding. But if you talk to another officiant and you feel a better connection with them than you do with me, then you need to hire them, if they're available. Because it's not about me having another wedding to do. It's about you finding the very best people. And sometimes it doesn't happen often, right? It doesn't happen often, but it has happened. I've had couples call me back and say, hey, Rick, we love talking to you, but we found somebody else. And I'm just saying, like, hey, I'm happy for you. Because again, this is your big day, and you need to have exactly the people there that you feel most comfortable with. And so I'm good with it. And then it's all about follow-up. It's all about communication, right? Mm-hmm. And so, listen, once you find your vendors, then it's all about you, like in my case, you communicating to me. I'll send you resources. I'll help spark your thinking about what you want the ceremony to be like. But once I do that, you need to just give me feedback. I will ask you all sorts of questions. You need to give me all sorts of answers, and I will get to know you. I will get a sense of your personality. I'll get a sense of your relationship, and we'll create something that reflects your personalities, something that expresses your commitment to each other. So again, it's really, for me, it's just about a fit, making sure that we're a good fit together, and then follow up communication with them.
That's huge. I want to just go back and kind of repeat that it's huge that you just kind of like tell them, it's all about the fit. And I feel like that's very like touching. That could be like a really touching thing to them, to know that you're just like, I'm here for you no matter what. If you feel like I'm not a fit for you, I completely understand, and so forth. Right. That's huge.
Right. Well, they do it. They do it. They say, that's really nice. I really appreciate that. And I'm really sincere about that. And they know that. Now, but here's the thing. See, I recommend you, all my vendor friends, a lot. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I know 6 florists, right? Yeah. I mean, I love them. I love, Flowers by Denise and Flowers by Kim and Flourish,
Alexa.
Yeah, Alexandria Walters. I love all those. There's so many. But here, once I, first of all, by the time people get to me, they have most of their other vendors, but not always. Sometimes, I'll ask them, do you have all your other vendors? And they'll say, yeah, well, we're still looking for a photographer, or we're still looking for, a caterer. And so by that point, I'll get to know them a little bit, and I'll make recommendations to them, because just like some officiants fit couples better than others, there are going to be some photographers or some coordinators that fit couples better than others as well. And so based on me knowing a little bit about the couple, knowing their personality and history, then I can make a recommendation of, here are 3 coordinators that will, any one of them be amazing, And so, I've recommended Jade. I've recommended you, Dick, based on.
Thank you.
We recommended you too, definitely.
based on me knowing you and your personality, and I'm thinking, oh man, she'd be a perfect fit for, right? He'd be a perfect fit for this couple. And so I think that's true across the board. We all, I'm not everybody. I'd like to think I am, but I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm not everybody. I think everybody likes me, but not everybody loves me, and that's all right.
We all love you, Rick. We all love you.
But you know what? All right. That's all right. There are other great officiants out there, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad that we have a reputation on the Central Coast that if you can hire almost anybody that, in our circle, and who I'm talking about. I mean, there's, 60 or 70 of us, right, in our circle, or 80, I don't know, right? And you can hire pretty much anybody in our circle, and we would feel good about that because we know they're going to do a great job, and they're going to enhance the reputation of the entire industry here because they're going to. So, yeah, it's all good. It's very exciting. I love it. I just hope I don't. I want to be able to do this for a long time, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to stay energized like this around this particular industry because it's
sure.
Yeah, you'll be in it for a super long time, Rick. You ain't going nowhere.
I hope not.
So I kind of want to circle back a little bit because I really liked what you were saying about finding the right fit for the couple because I noticed having a friend as an officiant is definitely a trend for sure for a lot of couples since couples really want that personal touch to their ceremony and to really feel connected with the person that's marrying them. So, and I've witnessed you personally tie all of this into your scripts, like all of the personal touches. So how do you go about establishing that initial connection with the couple so they feel super confident that you're going to be able to, be like their best friend by the wedding day?
That's a really good question, Jade. I think I need to convince them that this is not just another wedding for me, right? I need to convince them it's not just it's not just another payday for me. It's not just another wedding, that I have a real passion for what I do, right? And so I have a passion for what I do, that I'm going to do an incredible job for every couple that comes my way, right? And so first of all, I've convinced them that I'm not, this is not just another gig. It's not just another wedding, that this is really special to me because I feel a great privilege. I feel privileged to be able to be part of their day. And then once I've committed and convinced them of that I take this really seriously, and it's a passion, something I do because I love it, not just because I'm getting paid for it. Then, in fact, I tell couples, I say, listen, all the vendors I know, including myself, all the vendors I know, if they were independently wealthy, and they didn't have to, if this was not their livelihood that they were doing, and they would do it anyway.
Yep.
Do it anyway. All the coordinators, all the photographers, videographers, cater, floor, every vendor I know, if they didn't have, most of them, it's their livelihood. That's how they make it, right? Yeah. But all of a sudden won the lottery and, they didn't have to work at all. I can guarantee you every one of them would still do it. Why? Because they love it. That's why. So I convinced them. Well, I think the couple, I talked to them for a while. I think they're convinced that it's really a passionate, I really love them. And then, of course, I make a real effort. Again, it's all about follow-up. It's asking lots of questions, helping them relax, getting a sense of their story. I just say, I'll say, even if I'm not going to tell their story in the ceremony, I often do, but sometimes I don't. I still want to know their story because every story is unique. And so I want a history. I want to know when they met, how they were introduced, how long they've been together, highlights and lowlights, Yeah. Because couples anymore, it used to be back in the day when I first started, most couples I married were 18, 19, 20, maybe up to 22, 23. Now couples I marry are 28, 33, 37. They've been together 6 years. They may have a child. They may have bought a house together. They both finished degrees. They're in a career, right? So the demographic I'm working with is different. They have a history. They have a story. The couples early on, when I first started, they've been dating for 6 months. They're 19, right? They have no real history, right?
Yeah.
These couples now, they have a history. They have a story, right? Yeah. And that's really to build on and to bring out in the ceremony, because people who attend the wedding like to hear that. They like to hear how a couple met, fell in love, and how they ended up there today, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
So again, I think it's convincing people that this is not just another payday. It's not just another gig. It's something you're really passionate about. And if you have the privilege of being part of their day, you're going to do an amazing job. And then secondly, once you convince them of that, then it's just making a real effort to get questions, ask questions that will enable them to share with you their personality and their passion for each other. So
definitely. And I like what you said about telling their story, because that's huge when it comes to whenever like I'm editing a film and then the Officiant says just a really nice story about them. I'm just like, that is golden. Like I could use this for their film.
So
perfect.
excited.
Yeah. Whenever I have a chance to do that, because I'll tell a couple, I'll say that's an option. I can give a Twitter version of your story. I can put 10 years in 3 minutes, right? I could do that. I can do it in a fun, funny, interesting way people like. And I say, whenever I do that, afterwards, the feedback that I get from couples, every time I am able to tell a couple's story, every time the couple, when they give me feedback afterwards, a week later, 2 weeks later, I'll get an email, right? I'll get a letter, I'll get something from them, and they'll mention that, how much people love that part of the ceremony, right? It doesn't surprise me because, we find ourselves in other people's stories. Things are similar, right? We have similar, right? We met in college like they did, or, work like they did. And our first date was also to a whatever, we had similarities and we were the same age they were, or just different kinds of things we find in common with each other. And especially, if there's humor involved, and people like to hear, every relationship is a struggle. I mean, there are good times and hard times. You're just getting to know each other and you're building the relationship. And people like to hear how a couple's relationship has evolved and how they ended up there today. So it's
for sure
very interesting.
That's so cool. So now I wanted to go into, so for like the brides and grooms, the couples that may be listening, what are any tips for searching for the officiant? I know you kind of said, your style of how you approach them, but how do you want them to search for you guys?
Right. I think, well, first of all, I would really encourage brides and grooms, and I know my other vendor friends do this as well, to get started early. Please get started early.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Please.
I had a bride call me 2 days. This was in 2017, 2 days before Christmas.
Oh.
Asking if I could marry her the day after Christmas.
Whoa.
Wow. So that's okay, right? And we pulled it off. I wanted to know if I knew. I have a friend who owns a winery, and she wanted to get married in a vineyard, and I got their vineyard, and we did this thing, right? But I'm thinking, you're not giving. And again, it was a unique situation, but I thought to myself, you're not giving your vendors an opportunity to do their best, really, because you're giving them 3 days notice, right? Yeah. So my suggestion to brides is, in fact, I will commend brides. I'll get a bride who calls me and it's a year away or over a year away or even 10 months away. I'll say, I want to commend you for getting started early, because the fact that means that you're going to get the vendors you want, right? Mm-hmm. If you wait until 3 months out and you fall in love with this particular photographer or this particular caterer, you're going to find out they're not available. That venue booked, that florist is booked, that hair and makeup person is booked, that rental company's booked. You're not going to be able, so I commend you for getting started. So my first advice was, please get started early. Okay. And then when it comes to your vendors, first of all, most officiants have a website. Well, first of all, obviously, you can start there. Start a search on your own. Mm-hmm. Go to Wedding Wire, go to The Knot, go to, Central Coast Wedding Professionals, go to, go to the local, just go locally, just type in on Google, Officiants or whatever on the Central Coast, and begin to look, and then go to their website, read the reviews. If they have videos, watch the videos. You get a sense, right? So that's one way, is to search on your own. The second thing is since you're probably not going to look for an officiant first, not going to be first on your list. Probably a venue is first, and then maybe a coordinator is first. Some women, they want to make sure they got the right hair and makeup person. They go that route first. But whatever vendors you start talking to first, ask about other vendors. If you, if you line up a coordinator first, your coordinator is going to have a list to recommend to you anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So do a search on your own, number one. Number two, ask other vendors who they recommend. And if you hear the same name over again, right?
Yeah.
The same.
Yeah.
I know, seriously, you hear DJ Bob, or you hear Scott Muir,
Mhm.
you hear Epic Entertainment or Kramer, or you hear these people, or Javier Monte, you hear these people over and over and over again. That's probably a good sign,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Like, you hear Jade,
Mhm.
Jade, from you've talked to 5 people and 3 of them have mentioned Jade. You're going like, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably a good sign. So do a search on your own, start a Google search. And then after that, get feedback from other vendors. And you might be surprised, because it's very possible that some of your friends who may have got married on the Central Coast, if you remember going to a wedding on the Central Coast of somebody, call that bride up.
Yeah, for sure.
Ask them who they used, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you may, on that day, you may have thought to yourself, man, those flowers are beautiful. God, those are stunning, right?
Yeah.
A year later, getting married on the Central Coast, you're thinking like, man, I remember I went to, maybe you didn't know the bride Miranda, right? Because the Miranda was a friend of your husband's friend, right? Kind of thing. So you went with your boyfriend, your husband, to Miranda's wedding, but you saw the flowers there and you thought, oh my God, those are beautiful, right? And so all of a sudden, you track down Miranda's phone number and say, hi, I was at your wedding and I was a friend of a friend, but who did your flowers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have options, right? You do a Google search, get recommendations from other vendors. And then if you go to a wedding and you see something you like, find out who did it, because that person will probably be available for you if you start early enough.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Great
huge.
advice.
Yeah. So I want to break that down into a list here. So it was book or start what your wedding early, like planning early, recommendations. And if you keep hearing the same one, go with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Jump on it.
Yeah. Jump on it. You
Yeah.
know, yeah. And if you're at a past wedding and you like what you saw, reach out to the people, try to book, who they had, or find out who it was.
Yes.
And then do your research. Comes down to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, reading a website is good. A phone call or a Skype or a FaceTime or a Zoom meeting is better. And in person, obviously, is best, right?
Yeah. That's
it's
super huge.
I marry a lot of couples that are out of state. They come to California just to get married, right? So sometimes I don't meet them until the rehearsal. Sometimes I don't meet them till the day of the wedding. But I would probably say about 80% of my couples, and even if they're in, way, way, way Northern California or way, way Southern California, almost down by the border, I will get a chance to meet them at some point. I do a lot of weddings in Santa Barbara. So sometimes if the couple's in LA or San Diego, I'll just say, hey, I'm going to be in Santa Barbara these 3 weekends for weddings. How about, how can I meet you in Santa Barbara? And so, they'll come up and meet me there. But so, reading on their website, reading the reviews, watching videos is the first thing you can do. It gives you a sense. Talking on the phone gives you more of a sense of their personality. But the best, obviously, if you can, is meet them in person, because then you will walk. My guarantee is you will walk out of that meeting knowing whether that person is a good fit for you.
For sure.
You may see their work online and you may think, man, that's amazing. And then you meet them and you're thinking, I love their work online, but I don't know if their personality fits us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But usually if you really like their work, then you're probably going to go ahead and hire them. A lot of couples anymore, I find that, I don't know how many couples do, photo shoots for their engagement, but a lot of couples that I've worked with recently, their wedding photographer shot their engagement photos, and they just were so pleased with how they turned out that they went ahead and booked them for their wedding as well. So
that's huge. I like what you're saying. The personality thing is huge. No matter what, if their stuff is amazing, but they meet them and they're just not connecting, they'll move on. Right. That's huge.
Right. Well, I tell couples, listen, the 3 people, your photographer and your DJ and your coordinator, you're going to spend a lot of time with them on your wedding day, right? You're not going to see
up to it.
Everybody's important, but you're not going to see your florist much. You're not going to see your caterer much, although they're a really important part of the day, right? You're not going to see the rental company probably at all. They do all and they work so hard, but they're going to set up the dance floor, the tent, the lights and everything, and they'll be out there right before you guys even show up, right? Yeah. Your DJ, when you wake up in the morning, your photographer, when you wake up in the morning, he's going to be taking pictures of you getting out of bed, right?
Pretty much.
Good morning.
Away at night. And the same thing probably with your videographer, a lot, right?
Yeah.
And the coordinator is with you. If it's a 5 o'clock wedding, they probably show up at 9 o'clock in the morning and they're not gone till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. They're with you. And then your DJ is going to be there, for the whole night, which is really important after the wedding. So those people, it's especially important that you connect with them, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time with them on that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
Especially your videographer, photographer, coordinator, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's important that you even though you're not going to spend much time with him or her, your officiant's really key, because the time you spend with them is going to be the most crucial time of the whole day. The time when you're up there standing in front of all of these people, right?
Yeah.
And you're bearing your heart, pouring out your heart to this person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, telling them how much you love them in front of all these people, right? And so you want to have somebody up there you feel really comfortable with, who can help keep you calm and navigate the ceremony, right?
Definitely.
So everybody's important, but there are some people that you especially need to feel a good fit with, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, and your job when you're up there, you're also like not only keeping them calm, but you're also setting the mood for their family and friends, everyone that's watching as well. Like, you set the pace, Rick.
Yeah. Thanks for the pressure. Thanks for the reminder, Deb.
You definitely do it well, though.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the planning end of things for you. So, I mean, I'm like more big picture planning, but I want to commend you because creating a ceremony is a lot of work in itself. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember way back when Derek and I were getting married, I actually wrote our own ceremony script since I wasn't even aware that that's something that officiants do. And my officiant, I showed it to her and she's like, hey, you did my job.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm like, I didn't know. Yeah. So can you give us an idea of what the process is like with you in regards to creating and planning the ceremony script with your couples?
I think, Jade, first of all, I tell couples, I say, my experience, I'll talk to the bride and groom. Like I talked to a bride and groom the other day named Sean and Christina. So I'm talking to Sean and Christina. Now, I know that when it comes to planning the wedding, that it's every once in a while it's 50-50, right? Mm-hmm. But most of the time it's 95%, 5%. The woman takes the lead. And I think here's the reason why. My experience is that most women think about their wedding off and on over the course of their whole life. From the time they're a little girl, they're either in a wedding as a flower girl, or they go to a wedding, or they watch a wedding on TV, a handsome prince, a beautiful princess, they see this wedding, right? And they think about their wedding, right? Men tend to think about their wedding the weekend before. Their friend says, hey, I got tickets to the Rams game next Saturday. Do you want to go? And the guy says, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting married.
I got married.
Now, men, it's just that we don't have that many occasions to think about our wedding and planning for weddings. Women do. But here's what I think women think about. I think women think about, as they grow up and off and on, they think about weddings. They think about where they're going to get married at. I want to get married on the beach. I want to get married at a ranch. I want to get married in a ballroom. Mm-hmm. And about what they're going to wear, right? What's the dress going to look like, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think they think about the ceremony. Neither the bride or the groom think, what are we going to say, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they think about all these other things, of course, which are part of a wedding. But the bottom line is, but there has to be a ceremony. And what are we going to say? What do we want to say to each other? What do we want said around us? What do we want said to the guests? What do we want said? Now, obviously, you can create your own. Most people, I mean, some people are wordsmiths. Some people write easily. It comes, they're creative in when it comes to writing and expressing themselves. And some people are not. And when it comes to writing their own weddings, most people don't feel comfortable doing that. Obviously, there's an overwhelming amount of information on the internet.
Believe me, I wish I had help when I was doing it.
Yeah, Eric, a lot of it's all right. You can't, and you can take it and create something that's meaningful and personalize it in a certain way. But what I do with couples is, again, I'll tell them that I think that, again, women, think about where they want to get married, what they want to wear, but they don't think about the ceremony. The couples don't think about the ceremony. And so to get you thinking about the ceremony, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a whole bunch of resources. I'm going to send you, complete ceremonies I've created over the years. I'm going to send you pieces of ceremonies. I'm going to send you vows. I'm going to send you of ceremonies. I'm going to send you symbolic ceremonies like wine ceremony, sand ceremony, tying the knot, 13 hand fasting, all these different ceremonies, right? I'm going to send you pieces. I'm going to send you complete ceremonies. And what I want you to do is just look them over. And I tell them, I say, listen, on your end, putting together a ceremony or choosing the elements for the ceremony is a right frame of mind kind of thing. You have to be in the mood. And so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to send the resources. You're going to open them up, scan through them, put them away. And then a week later, a month later, depending how far out your ceremony is, on some lazy Sunday afternoon, some Thursday morning at 1 a.m. when you can't sleep, you're going to get up, you're going to open those resources, and they're going to jump off at the page of you. You're going to read things and go like, oh, that sounds just like us. Oh, I love it. And all of a sudden, these things are going to begin to really surface. They're going to resonate with you, right? So you find things, either things you've seen at other weddings, things you find yourself, or go through the resources I send. Choose elements that really resonate with you. Send those pieces to me, and then I will create a first draft of your ceremony.
Wow.
And I'll send that to you, and then we will work off of that. We will work off of that back and forth. We'll just massage that until we get exactly what you want. And even after the rehearsal, where we hit all the highlights of the ceremony, we can make changes even after that. And sometimes we involve other people. Sometimes, they have a couple of readings and they're really meaningful, but they want an aunt or a grandmother or a sister to do a reading. That's amazing. I would say that most people aren't comfortable writing their own ceremony because they really don't. I know it's kind of fashionable from sometimes now to have, a brother, a dad, a best friend, a cousin do, officiate your ceremony. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's funny hearing my vendor friends like Bob Stock and Amanda and others, they'll have, we all run into situations where, their best friend, he's not a photographer, but he's going to take pictures. He just happens to have, right. Or whatever. Right. Yeah. Someone else. Right. Now, it's one thing. We don't have a problem, if they have a florist do their flowers, their aunt's doing their flowers, great. But their aunt is a florist and she owns a florist business. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Okay. He would like one of our own local vendors to do it. But hey, this woman, we know she's going to do a good job, right? But but what we kind of like makes us uneasy is they have people do it who just, they're not professionals and they're going to do a really important part of the wedding. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, you're just, right? So when
you never know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Comes to the ceremony, I'm thinking like, I want my brother, and I'll tell couples, say, listen, I understand why you want that. And, absolutely you can have it. But my suggestion is twofold. Number one, whoever does it, make sure they're really comfortable in front of other people and that they do this sort of thing often. Now, and I don't mean wedding ceremonies, but they're the kind of people that they're always up in front of people teaching and talking. Maybe they own a small business and they're always doing leadership training. They're comfortable in front of people and they're articulate, right? Mm-hmm. The second, and it's not only being able to deliver the ceremony, it's writing the ceremony. Mm-hmm. It's putting everything together. And now, and so they probably have never done that before, but maybe they will have. Hang on for 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. That's huge. I definitely agree.
I interview. So it's not only, again, delivering, it's writing it. Mm-hmm. And so they may be really good at speaking, but maybe they can't write to save their lives. And so what you want is you want a great ceremony and you want it delivered, with passion and eloquence, and you want that. And some people, they can deliver the passion and the eloquence, but they're not good at putting together the ceremony. Other people write a great ceremony, but they're not really good at the presentation. So you really want both. So I'm just saying, listen, you can do this, but my suggestion is make sure you find somebody who's really comfortable up front of folks and someone who has the skills to put some words together that really express your heart, because otherwise it's not going to be all it could be. And since it is a focal point, maybe the focal point of the day, then you want it to be everything it can be. So again, most people, I'll even tell people, listen, if you decide to have someone do it, I'd be glad to help them. Maybe even if you want somebody else to do it, I'll work with you to create the ceremony. I'll create the ceremony for you, and you can have them deliver it. Then I'll even work with them. I'll even talk to them and kind of walk them through how to do that as well. So sometimes I've done that in the past.
That's so cool. Yeah, like I just like what you were saying about like you like to give people resources to go on to create their vows. Like I really wish we had that for our wedding. When I did my vows, I I freestyled. I didn't know what to say. I just spoke what from my heart, I guess. Yeah.
You wrote them that morning.
Yeah.
Right. Well, but they were you. They were an expression of your heart. What's really funny is I'll have couples. Women tend to be, it's not a blanket statement. It's not always true, but more often than not, women tend to be very able to express their emotions and their feelings better than men. Right.
Oh, for sure.
So, couples will often want to write a personal message or write their own vows. And the women always do a great job. And the guys are always worried they're not going to do a great job. And so I'll say, well, send me what you've written. And I have to say, every time I'm blown away. The guys are amazing because they'll say, well, what do I say? I'll say, do this. Pretend it's a Friday night. You decide not to go out. You're just sitting at home. You're in your clothes. You're watching a movie, right? And she's, you got your arm around her. She's leaning into your chest and she's just sitting there watching this movie. And you look over at her. You just look at her as she's watching this movie. And all of these feelings come to your mind about how much you love this woman. Say that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Whatever you're thinking at a moment like that, say that. Just to put yourself in that position because that's what your heart is, right? You're sitting there. This woman is in your arm, like crooking your arm, watching this movie, and you're looking at her thinking like, "Oh my God, I'm the luckiest guy in the whole world." She's amazing. She's smart, beautiful. She loves me. She's, so just put that in words. And these guys they do an incredible job of expressing their love for their bride. And
that's so nice. That's so sweet.
Awesome that you could provide them just like that extra guidance just to put them in the right mindset.
To ease them down a bit. Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Definitely.
Right. Because obviously you want to express, I tell a guy, you really, don't try to be something you're not,
Mm-hmm.
Just express your personality. Just,
Yeah.
Because that's what your bride, you don't worry about what anybody else thinks. It's the woman that's standing across from you that you're going to marry. That's the only person that matters today.
Yeah.
Yep. So, hey, Rick, I just want to know, what's your most, if you could think of one, what is your most memorable, well, maybe not your most, just a wedding that sticks out to you. Is there a story that you could share with that?
Yes. Well, first of all, everyone has been memorable. Thank you. But there are two in particular. Number one is I did a wedding at the Four Seasons Biltmore in Santa Barbara. And
nice place.
Yeah. R2D2 was the ring bearer.
Whoa, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Because the couple both worked for Walt Disney. Right.
Oh, well, awesome.
So, and apparently there are 5 full-size R2D2 units that Disney has for, special events. And so this couple was able to have one of the R2D2 units there, right? So on the day of the wedding, they put a bow tie on him, I guess. They put a bow tie and they put a ring pillow in his arms, right? So, the whole wedding party's up there. And so right before the bride comes down, and the wedding party knew, but the guests didn't know.
Oh, that's so cool.
R2D2 comes down the aisle, right?
That's
and
awesome.
It was hilarious. It was amazing. So he comes down, he comes up to me, he turns and he goes all the way down and he stands next to the last groomsman. And then when it comes time for the wedding, for the rings, here he comes with a ring pillow. I mean, it's just, people were freaking out. It was fun. But I think probably the coolest was, I'm a big USC fan, University of Southern California, have been for a long time, especially football, right? So I did a wedding at a winery in San Ynez Valley, and the guy was a graduate of USC. He had like an undergraduate degree and 2 master's degrees. And so on the front, there's only a wedding, about 40 people at the wedding. So there was on the front chair, there was a USC foam finger, like a number 1 finger, and there was a USC baseball hat. So I pronounced them husband and wife, and they kiss, and then he turns up and he turns around, picks up the baseball hat, puts it on, and she puts on the foam finger. And all of a sudden, you hear the USC fight song being played.
Oh, gosh, that's awesome.
And 15 members of the USC marching band in uniform come marching around the corner. They come marching down the aisle, and everybody, standing up, and they're doing the victory sign as USC, does. And so they led the entire wedding party, and then all of the guests around this building to this big grassy knoll, and they put on a concert for like an hour. And at first, they just started playing like college fight songs, but then they were playing John Mayer and Beyonce. Shania Twain. And I mean, they were, Journey. I mean, they were rock. It was unbelievable. They put on this whole concert and people are dancing. I mean, it was really, it was fun. It was just kind of different than the norm, right? Going to
sounds like an awesome cocktail hour.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So, but everything is, that's, nobody has stories like wedding vendors. We could all,
sure.
But those were very memorable because, again, and I've done some weddings where the venue is just unbelievable, some private estates kind of thing where it's like, oh my gosh. In Malibu, I looked around, I'm expecting to see, I'm at this home in Malibu and I'm looking around, I'm thinking, surely there's got to be some celebrities on this street somewhere. One of those houses. So, it's,
that's crazy. For that Star Wars wedding, was it on May 4th? Just curious.
No. But it was fun. It was fun. Those are those kinds of unique aspects. I've done a couple of weddings at Santa Barbara Zoo. That's interesting because you hear all the animals, right?
Yeah, that's so cool.
I mean, right in the middle of the wedding, you hear a lion roar, or you hear, all these. It was kind of
awesome.
It's kind of interesting. Some interesting venues. I did a really cool wedding at the horse down in Los Olivos area. There's the Horse Whisperer for his name, but he owns a ranch down there. And so there's, so the couple got married on this road between these two really long pastures. It's beautiful. And so the whole wedding was set up on this road that goes into the main area. And right when the bride was coming down the aisle, they released all these thoroughbred horses into the pastures on either side of the road.
Whoa, that was pretty.
Whispering Rose?
Huh?
Was that Whispering Rose?
Yes, Whispering Rose. Yes.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, super nice there.
So they released these horses on both sides of the road. So they come galloping. I mean, it was just like, they're probably like, 10 or 15 horses in each pasture, and they're running, because they're all playing in the pasture, right? Because she got married there because she had horses and she trained horses. So obviously, she wanted to get married in that kind of environment. But it's so beautiful because these animals were so beautiful as she's coming down the aisle. And you're looking at her, you're looking in the pasture at these horses. It was just an incredible.
Oh, they came down when she was walking down the aisle?
Yes.
Whoa, dang, that'd be super gnarly.
Yeah.
They timed it on purpose the wedding, everybody's saying, well, the guest please rise. Her song comes on. She starts coming down and these horses are running. They're running the same direction she's walking.
Yeah.
She's walking up the aisle. Horses are coming in the same direction. It was just
so cool.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be majestic.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Yeah, it was.
Oh, so cool. All right. So this has been like super crazy. We're just going to take a quick break.
Welcome back, guys. We're still here with Rick from Avow Ceremonies.
Yeah, Rick. All right. So let's see.
I want to chat a bit about wedding rehearsals because I absolutely love how you work with the coordinator during rehearsals and take the time to guide the couple and the whole wedding party through all of those little things that make everyone feel so much more comfortable on the wedding day. Mm-hmm. There are things that I'm used to running through myself. And then, the officiant just briefly runs through his things. But I really like how you take it a step further and really go the extra mile in rehearsal days.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I appreciate it. First of all, I think 9 times out of 10, if a rehearsal is possible, you should have one, especially if the wedding party's, more than 4 people. If it's more than the bride and groom and best man and maid of honor, you really probably should have a rehearsal because the wedding party's probably not been together. Everybody in that party is probably not been together at another wedding, and they've probably not been done a wedding at that venue. So it's really important to walk things through because that way it'll make it so much more relaxed the next day. You have to worry about, where you're going to start, where you're going to walk to, where you're going to stand, and the flow of the ceremony. So that's really important. But yeah, I when I show up, probably about 60-70% of the time, I will show up, and if they have a coordinator or a planner, it's someone I've worked with, someone I know, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So we know each other. We know what roles we're going to take that day. Sometimes she'll do the bulk of it and she'll turn it over to me just for the ceremony. Sometimes I'll do the bulk of it, or maybe she'll make introductions and turn the whole thing over to me in terms of actually, running the rehearsal. If I don't know the coordinator or the planner, then I'll say, hey, listen, I'm really flexible. I don't know what you do, but I'm willing to work with you. So if you want to, run everything and just have me stand up there and then, go through the highlights of the ceremony, I can do that. If you want to line everybody up and send them down, then have me take it from there. So, yeah. So basically it's a matter of where are we going to start at, where are we going to walk to, where are we going to stand? And then once I get everybody up there, obviously usually most coordinators start with everybody in place.
Mm-hmm.
Then you walk out and then you walk back in. From the very beginning, that means the bride's escorted down by the dad and or the brother if she's given away by someone. So everybody finally gets up there, and then at that point, when everybody's in place, we'll kind of run highlights of the ceremony, and what I'll just kind of I will not obviously I'll just basically say, here's the welcome. I may read a couple of lines of that. Then we transition, there's a reading or maybe a prayer. We'll transition into the vows. Maybe they're going to have a personal message. And then from the vows, we'll go into maybe a symbolic ceremony leading into, the rings or something after the rings. If we tell their story, we'll do that before the vows. So I'll just hit all the highlights so that they'll know what's coming next. But I'll also mention things to the couple. I'll say, listen, there's a couple times during the ceremony when I'm going to step out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in the picture, right? So I'm not going any place. The groom I'm facing the guest. The groom is on my left. The bride's on my right. Mm-hmm. So I usually step to the left. I'll step at least as far as the best man, sometimes even further left than that. So it's just the bride and groom. Now, what's funny is I'll usually say to the bride and groom, from time to time, I've forgotten to tell the bride and groom at the rehearsal that I'm going to step out of the way.
Yeah.
And so on the wedding day, I'm thinking to myself, I'm kind of like a step ahead. I'm looking through the ceremony. I'm doing the ceremony. I'm saying, oh, here comes a reading, a perfect time to step away, right? And so I'll start to step away off to the side, and I'll look at the bride and groom, because again, I haven't mentioned to them at the rehearsal. And the look on their face is like, oh my God, where's he going? Right? I'm not. Sorry, I'm just stepping out of the way. But I'll tell couples that, because what really blows my mind is I have a few photographer friends who told me that they have officiants who not only they never step out of the way, even for the kids, step out of the way. You're kidding me.
Their head's just like right in the middle, right dab in the middle. You see like an eyeball sticking out.
At least 2 or 3 times, during the ceremony. The other thing I'll tell the couple is, I'll talk about nervous energy. Sometimes, it's a really emotional day. It's a wonderful day, but sometimes nervous energy causes your hands to swell. Mm. So the bride, you go to put the ring on the bride's finger and it doesn't fit. So I've seen grooms force the ring on. You don't want to do that. I've seen grooms lick the bride's finger. Whoa. I've seen grooms. So they'll laugh, but it's funny is because I'll tell a couple sometimes the ring doesn't fit, and I have this bride who has these petite little fingers and think, no, not a problem. And I would probably say about 40% of the time, the very next day, the groom will go to put the ring on the bride's finger and it won't fit, right? It won't slide on easily. And I'll just say, listen, just leave it. I'll tell them at the rehearsal, just leave it at the knuckle. Yeah. And a second, they'll slide it on, right? But it's so funny to see the look on the bride's face, because starts to put the ring on, and she puts her hand out, and the ring won't slide on easily. And the look on her face is like, oh. Yeah. I think to myself, I told you. Anyway, but little things like that.
That's Rick.
You don't think about, right? You don't think about stepping out, the bride that you're going to step out of the way. When they first get up there, bride, just face your groom. Let the bridesmaid, let your maid of honor straighten your train. All turn out toward your guest. Groom, your left side is facing your guest. If you're right-handed, when it comes to getting the rings from your best man, you may be turning towards me because you turn to your dominant hand. You don't want to turn towards me and turn your back on your guests. So you want to turn out, yes, right? Mm-hmm. So, on your left side's facing your guest, but you might turn to the right because you're going to reach with your right hand because that's your dominant hand. So don't do, so again, make sure you turn out towards your guests. When you give your bouquet away, if the bride's left-handed, then she might want to turn around to her left and give the bride the bouquet to her bridesmaid. But if you turn her guests, right? So in order for the photographer to get a picture of the bride giving her bouquet away, of the groom getting the rings from the best man, you need to turn out towards your guests. So again, turn out towards your guests. I'm going to be stepping out of the way. Don't force the ring on the finger if it doesn't fit. Just let it at the knuckle and they'll slip it on later. Little things like that, right?
Yes.
When the wedding's over, right, and the bride and groom go down the aisle, best man, maid of honor, stay wide. Stay wide.
Mm-hmm. Let them have the exit, the aisle exit.
Down the aisle, shooting up the aisle, and you don't want to be in the background as they shoot up the aisle. Wait till they turn the corner or get past the photographer. Then, best man, maid of honor, you come together, start walking down, right? Mm-hmm. Little thing.
See, that's huge. Yeah, I like
huge difference.
Yeah, I like how your workflow is to make the couple feel really at ease about what they're doing, but also you have like the videographers and photographers in mind too, making sure they get their faces and make sure that the audience and family see their faces when they're up there. That's huge.
Yeah, just to make the whole experience better for everyone all around and more comfortable, and so they could actually enjoy it on the wedding day.
Yeah, Rick, I remember when Jade first worked with you, and then she came home and like told me about it. She was like so happy. She was like, "Oh man, Rick's so amazing."
It was like, man, all of these tips, it's mind blowing.
The reality is, you tell the bride and groom all of this at the rehearsal, and they forget everything you've told them. But that's all right. Because the wedding day is so emotional. It's so wonderful, right?
Yeah.
It's almost surreal. For them, for everyone else at the wedding, everything's normal and normal time. For the bride and groom, it's funny because the bride and groom, things will happen during the ceremony that they won't remember till like 2 or 3 days later. It's like, oh yeah, right? Because again, the moment is so momentous and it's so emotional. It's so packed with emotion and love and affection, and so they kind of forget, I think, but it's in their subconscious. And so all of a sudden you're kind of there, you kind of maybe give them a little bit of cue. Hey, I'm going to step aside, and hey, here comes the ring. Don't forget, and that kind of, they remember, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't really expect them to remember much during the ceremony, even though they just rehearsed it the day before, because.
Yeah. But I think the point is just to make them feel more comfortable ahead of time, so that they don't have to worry about little things like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because for most of these brides and grooms, I mean, even now, I mean, for some of it's a second marriage. For some, it's a second marriage, but the first marriage was 20 years ago, right? Yeah. So, and for most people, it's their first marriage, and they've never done this before. They've watched other people do it. It's no big deal, but now they're doing it. Yeah. So you're right, Jade. It's about making them feel comfortable. And, I work with amazing coordinators. They are incredible. And, again, I'm so pleased when when I show up at a wedding rehearsal and I look around and I see so many of my vendor friends that I've mentioned today already.
Yeah.
It's like, happy. In fact, I'll tell the bride and groom, I was thinking, I'll say, man, you have like a Hall of Fame lineup of vendors. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know if you know how amazing all your vendors are. You got like the best of the best, right? So, and I know my vendor friends feel the same way. Mm-hmm. When my vendors show up and they look around and they see, a coordinator shows up or a DJ shows up, and they look around, and they see, all these other vendors. They know who the other vendors are. They're going like, oh, this is amazing, right?
Must be a good day.
Yeah, right. It's going to be a good day,
That's huge. Yeah, definitely. And I bet you that makes the bride feel really good knowing that, she has that good team and stuff when you tell her stuff like that. That's huge.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So Rick, I wanted to go into your style. You got this really cool GQ slick style. So when you first started, did you ever were you wearing a robe, or were you always cool suit and you with your unique tie? Can you tell me about the bow ties too? But first, did you ever wear a robe, or were you always suit and tie?
Lots of questions there.
Yeah, suit and bow tie.
Yeah. Combination. I was not. We don't wear robes. I would be glad to. First of all, I'm up for anything. I've actually worn T-shirt and board shorts on the beach when I married a couple, because it was really casual, and that's what the groom and the bride and the groomsman wore. And so whatever, I'll just ask the groom, what do you want? What are you wearing? A suit, a tux? Are you jean? What are you? So if they cowboy up, then I cowboy up. If they're to a beach theme, I'm in. But most of the time I'm in a suit. Right. And I always match the color. And there's a classic story, which is absolutely true. I went to a wedding because I'll always ask the color. So if the groom's in black, I'm in black. If he's in gray, I'm in gray. There's light gray, there's dark gray, there's, blue, brown, whatever it may be. So I have lots of suits, and I'll try to match up, and because I want to blend in, right? I mean, if you're the officiant, you're gonna. I don't care who you are. If you go to a wedding, you're gonna notice the officiant, right? I mean, you can't help. They're right in the middle of everything, right? But you don't want the officiant shouldn't want to be the focal point, right? I went to a wedding where the groom and the groomsmen were in black, right? Really classy. It looked classy and classic, right?
Yeah.
The officiant was in bright green.
Whoa.
I thought, oh my God, what? Did you not have the color? I mean, why would you do it? I mean, because you couldn't, I mean, even if you didn't want to notice the officiant, you couldn't help but notice the officiant. It was terrible. It was terrible, really. And I thought, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to try to usurp. It's not my day.
Yeah.
It's the bride and groom's day. And I don't want to do anything to take away from that. So I'm going to blend in, right? They're going to notice, but I'm going to blend in. So I love, I've always loved, I love dressing up. And the whole bow tie thing, I think for the first few years, I wore regular ties. And then I just saw a wood bow tie one time, and I thought, oh, that looks really sweet. So I ordered it, and I thought, it is really sweet. And so I started ordering wood bow ties. I've had a few friends give me some. So I have about 25 wood bow ties. And what's so funny is I will show up at a wedding, and people will look at me, and they'll like do a double take, and they'll go like, oh, is that a wood bow tie?
Yeah.
Both men and women, people, guests, and people in the wedding party, they'll both say, oh, is that a wood bow tie? Yeah. And they'll go, oh, that is sweet. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I think people call, hey, Jim, come look at this wood bow tie, right?
It's like your signature style.
Yeah.
And then what's kind of funny is someone will say, can I take a picture? And I'll go, sure. I'll stand up and smile, and they will get really close and take a picture of just the bow tie. What? I'm up here. Oh, I want a picture of me. No, they want just the bow tie. So, funny. And then a lot of people say, did you make that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just a lie and go, yeah, I can make you one.
Yeah.
Got them on Amazon or wherever. And, but yeah, they're a lot of fun. They're just kind of I think it's kind of become my
signature piece.
Yes. The bow tie, I'm the bow tie guy. In fact, I rewrote a song. I love to take old rock and roll songs. I'm a rock and roll person, and rewrite. I rewrote a song. I rewrote the song "Fat Bottom Girls" about what. But rewrote the song. I'm rewriting the song "The Sharp Dressed Man" by ZZ Top.
Nice.
Everybody loves that. Everybody loves that bow tie man.
Oh.
So about wedding officiants. So obviously, so
I want to hear that.
But I again, anything that I can do to, obviously, I guess I do that because I think about the industry a lot. I think about doing weddings a lot. I think about, and so music has always bled over into my real life. I mean, I usually, there's real life situations, and a song usually comes to mind to parallel the situation. And so I remember driving home. I was driving home from a wedding in Santa Barbara, and I was thinking about wedding vendors, and the song "Fat Bottom Girls" came on. And I was just a lonely groom. I was looking for a room or a place outside my bride and I could wed. I just doing what I know. And so so I just started putting the song together in my mind. And there's a song. What's the song by Bon Jovi? The one.
Drawing a blank.
Huh?
I'm drawing a blank.
Anyway, I wrote a song about that, about DJs.
I'm
a DJ.
We gotta hear these.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Rick soundtrack.
Yeah.
Keep playing these.
And just again, it all has to do. We all have our unique talents, abilities, personalities.
Yeah, that's huge. Like I like how you just fit yourself into each wedding, and then you don't overdo it though. You try to blend in with them, which is huge. I feel like it's really important. Very cohesive. Yeah. So I wanted to go back into that too, Rick, and ask. So how do you do that for multiple weddings? You straight Superman style? You like just jump into your car and change into the next outfit and then go to the next wedding, or sometimes is it just like one outfit for the weddings?
Yeah,
Superman style.
Yeah. sometimes there's a few hours between a wedding. So, but there have been times when I've changed, I've actually changed suits at a venue. I usually make arrangements beforehand. Obviously, I worked a lot of these venues a lot, and so I'll know the event manager at the venue, or I'll talk to the coordinator ahead of time, work something out. And so I'll duck into a room somewhere. I'll bring a change with me, and I mean, it doesn't happen often, but occasionally I'll have to do that. I'll have 2 weddings in Paso Robles. I'll have one at Hammer Sky Vineyards. Then I'll have one at Tooth and Nail, and they're relatively close together. I won't have time to. It would be kind of a rush to come all the way home. I don't live at Paso, but so I'll just change at Hammer Sky and go on over to, or change the Tooth and Nail and go to Hammer Sky, whatever I'm headed. So yeah,
crazy.
I have to do that. And then again, it's just a matter of getting the right frame of mind of just okay, the first wedding's over. It was amazing. It was wonderful. Got to spend a little time with the couple afterwards. Again, they don't, they're appreciative, and I get the license signed and that sort of thing, but they need to go on with their guests and everything. So I don't spend afterwards. But then I just kind of, get in my car, take a deep breath, rejoice in how well the wedding went, and think, okay, now I'm going to, move to the next one in my mind and get ready emotionally, for what's about to take place. And
that's huge.
Mentally prepare.
That's pretty tough. That's a tough gig.
Well, again, Derek, I can't overemphasize. I think, again, it's the way we're wired. I'm a police chaplain, right? I've done that for 10 years. So they call me out for suicides, domestic violence, and death notifications. Wow. Okay. Now the thing is, so I'm walking into situations where, I mean, it's crisis. It's bad, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody can do that.
No way. That's tough.
So why can I do that? Because that's the way I'm wired. I mean, it's nothing I've done, right? I just think like everybody has a God-given personality, a God-given, right? Everybody has God-given strengths and talents, and we find out what those are, God-given passions, right? Mm-hmm. And we find out what are over the time. We may like doing something, but we're no good at it. And then we find something we like, but we're really good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can do the stuff with the weddings that I have to do, just like I can do the stuff with the police department I have to do, because that's the way I'm wired. My personality and temperament allow me to do that, and fortunately allow me to do it, fairly successfully.
Really successfully.
If
definitely fits you.
Definitely.
If someone else, I couldn't do it. But hopefully, if I couldn't do this, I could do something like you guys do, and I could do it as well as you do it. Your videographers amaze me. I see. Chelsea Smith is new. She's new to me. I know Stories Told by Film have been around for a while, but I love Colton. Colton's amazing. Patrick is crazy, but he's Eric, you have great stuff. All these guys, and there are others, but those are the 4 that come to mind at the moment. I love seeing your work. I mean, first of all, images and music move us. They move us. They not only tell a story, but they resonate with us. They stir our soul and our imagination. And so when you guys go to a wedding and you put it on film and you illustrate it and emphasize it with music and narrative, or narration, it's amazing. It's just right.
Definitely. That's why whenever you guys say beautiful pieces during the ceremony, it's just golden nuggets for us. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, it does help. I have some videos on my website where, I mean, they took a couple of lines from something I was doing, and God, it just fits. I mean, they matched it up perfectly with the imagery that's going on at the same time. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And speaking of videos too, I saw that video of what Colton did of you, like putting on your bow tie and stuff, and like it's like an interview, and then you like go to your sweet ride, and like you're like heading off to a wedding or something. Yeah. That's super cool.
That was so kind of him. He was so gracious to me. Basically, he did that basically for nothing. I tried to compensate him, and he wouldn't allow that. I wanted something that kind of was, a kind of a promo video, because I have things from weddings, and he made that suggestion. And he came up, with Jessa, and he came and brought his sister up and hauled all this equipment up to my house and had some really creative ideas. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. I'm very grateful, but I loved it. I loved what he did. Yeah. It was,
it looked really good.
I thought so. Yeah. And I've heard some really good things from some other people who I know have a lot more, they're a lot better equipped to know what's good and what's not than I am. And they have gotten a lot of, but Colton and Jessa they're great people. They're
they're amazing at what they do. Do you show that video to couples at all?
I do. Well, it's on my website.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say.
And it's on my Wedding Wire link. And so hopefully I'll always ask couples, I'll say, when they call me, I'll say, have you gone to my website yet? And most of them have. And if they have, then they've read the reviews and they've watched the videos, or at least some of them. And that's probably why they're calling me, because they're thinking like, we think this guy might be a good fit for us, because obviously, people will go to a website and they'll read some things or watch a video, and then they'll not calling that particular vendor for whatever reason. So they won't maybe feel like it's not a good fit after going to the website. So usually they do. They've seen that video. They haven't maybe mentioned that video specifically, but I know that if they've gone to the website, video. Yeah,
I'll definitely add that video into the show links here, because that's something that people need to see. It's really cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I was curious, Rick, do you offer any other services besides officiating ceremonies, like maybe coaching best men on their toasts or anything like that? Because you're super good at writing, so I feel like you're good at it.
Toasts. I've done a few toasts. The original thing, the crazy thing was, the first time I ever got called was about 3 years ago. I got a call from this Minnesota, and it turned out, I did some internet research on him. It turned out he owns this like massive company in Minnesota, some kind of manufacturing company. And he was a guy in his late 50s, and he was going to be the best man. He said, I'm going to be the best man for my friend of 30 years. And he was another high-powered executive for another company. They'd known each other for 30 years. And he said, the wedding's going to be in San Luis. And I thought maybe they were going to call him, they already had an officiant, but he said, I said, this is my best friend. I'm the best man. I got to give the toast. He said, I don't want to screw it up. I need help. And he said, my friend, he mentioned the groom's name, he said, told me to call you. Yeah. What? And somehow,
cool.
I think apparently the groom talked to somebody who said, he said, the groom said to somebody, yeah, my best man needs help. And whoever he talked to said, call Rick Comstock. Mm-hmm. He's really good with words. He can help him. So that was my first, 3 years ago. So I did. I said, Dad, I haven't done a toast since I was best man in a couple weddings way back in the day. I haven't done a toast since then, but I'll right. I can put words together. So I did. And he really liked, I actually did the whole thing for him and sent it to him, and he loved it. And then afterwards, he called me after the wedding was over and said, man, it was amazing. My best friend loved it, and thank you very much. And so since that time, I've done a couple other people. Basically, I think, if you're the best man, you're going to do a toast for someone, then obviously you're going to have stories to tell, and you're going to have, some toasts are more humorous. Some toasts are really personal. They have a personal story of some kind. But yeah, I can do that. And in terms of, I will do on occasion premarital counseling. Some couples ask for that. It's kind of difficult. I lives out of the area, because obviously, we can do things, online, but it's a little more difficult. It's much better if things are in person. So if a couple lives locally, I've been asked to do premarital counseling. And since I did that in pastoral ministry, then that's not something that's unusual for me. Mm-hmm. But I love, I love creating. I love words. I love writing. So if I can do stuff like that, and I can coaching in the sense that, a life coach kind of thing. I haven't done that, but in terms of coaching someone on some small aspect of creating something or writing something or performing something, I can certainly do that, because I've been, I did forensics in high school, speech and debate. And I had a lot of success at that, traveled around a lot. And so I've been in front of people, communicating in front of people for, a long time. So I'm
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know that you're on the detective side of things.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go into a little bit more about your writing. So I know you're legendary for your poems. So you like your poem things you do. Is that something you've added into the ceremonies at all with couples?
I have occasion. Yeah. I have. There's been a couple of weddings where I've written a little limerick or a little poem or something. Maybe as part of the telling their story, something that kind of rhymes together. Yeah, I like that. I know that comes pretty easily for me. I've had, Dana, the photographer, Dana Hodgkinson. She's a friend of mine. She's just an amazing person as well as
she is. Yeah, so nice.
Is actually contracted with me to create a couple of pieces. One, a birthday poem for her husband, and then a couple other birthday things for a really dear friend of her, a lifelong friend of hers, and then a student that she knew, that she did some, I think, photography for. So I think one thing was an anniversary. The other things were like birthdays. And so, I like doing that. And of course, I've done some stuff for the wedding games. Patrick's been really gracious in allowing me to do.
Yeah, that was super
I remember
cool.
those were pretty hardcore. Those were nice. Got the crowd pumped.
Yeah, well, I like that. I feel like a Braveheart, riding horseback.
Yeah.
People have to go and take no prisoners, kind of thing. So
that's so cool.
Words are powerful. I've always words are powerful, and they can be you can use to really build people or really harm people. And I love to use to build people, inspire people. And, again, I did that in high school in forensics and speech and debate. I did it obviously as a pastor for years and years and years and years. I could really give people hope and inspire people and lift people through words and motivating them. And then of course in weddings and then in writing, you can do that. And, just like you do with your imagery, just like with the things you put together on film, very inspiring. For me, again, personally, I like to give people hope. I feel like I'm a merchant of hope. I like to, and I don't sell it. I give it away. I think it's, we can live without a lot of things in this life, but we can't live without hope. We need hope, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So anything I can do to put a smile on a person's face, that's why, again, I know I'm kind of talking. I read a long time ago that people need 12 hugs a day to be emotional. Okay, emotionally healthy. Now, and it doesn't have to be a physical hug, right? It can be a pat on the back, a handshake, a smile, a word of affirmation, a word of appreciation, right? So I'm thinking, like, how hard is it to give a hug? It's not hard at all. And I know in our day and age, we need to be careful. I used to go around hugging women, right? I just don't. I mean, my friends, obviously, I'll give a hug. Not now. Not now. I don't touch them at all, right?
Yeah. Give back.
Male friends, my female friends, and I'll give them a hug. But I'm saying, how hard is it to give a hug? How hard is it to give a handshake, a smile, a word of affirmation, to tell somebody you appreciate them or they're good at something? It doesn't take much at all. And yet, when you do that, it gives people hope. It really builds them. It gives them the courage sometimes to just take another step, to go one more day, right? So if we could all do a little more of that, and I see people doing that, especially now, as hard as this whole thing has been, this whole, social distancing and isolating at home has been, there have been some good effects from it. Families, I think, are reconnecting, and people are getting different ways, and we're forced to figure out new ways to connect with each other, and those are good things. And I see a lot of affirmation going on. I see a lot of on Facebook, a lot of personal messaging where people are really encouraging and saying, I didn't realize how much I really appreciate you, and I want to let you know how awesome you are. And that doesn't pay bills, right? It puts food on your table, but it does give you hope, and it does inspire you, and it does. It is huge. So I like doing that, and I figure I can do that with words, and it doesn't cost me anything. And even if it did cost me something, so what? It's not, whatever currency we have, especially emotional currency, we need to spend it as often as we can to just bless and encourage other people.
I agree.
And we're in an industry where we can do that. We're in an industry where we can do that. I know we have to make, I'm retired, so I have an income, and so I don't have to do this, but I know most of my friends, obviously they need to make a living. I want them to make a living. But they also are able, they're so generous with their time and energy and their abilities. And I know that that even though they have to make a living, that they give away so much of themselves for free, basically, to people. And it'll come back. It comes back to you. You can't treat other people well and not end up being paid back in some positive way. So, like, even what you're doing now, you're giving people an opportunity to share their story, to get their name out there, or their business out there. And that's, it's a blessing for lots of people, for the 7 or 8 people you've interviewed so far, and for the others you're do. But it's also, and I know you have only a really good motivation for doing it, but it's also going to benefit you. You're blessing other people, and you'll be blessed because you're doing it.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, we appreciate that. It's all about getting the community out. Yeah,
it is.
So I wanted so speaking of, like you mentioned, the quarantine, where do you see, this is a pretty tough question here. Where do you see the future of weddings from this point?
And that's gosh, that is
really no.
Yeah.
If I know, I hope.
That's where the hope comes in.
Yeah, that's where the hope comes in.
Right. I know. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine people. I mean, people are going to continue to get married. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it'd be like not to be able to celebrate that day in front of the people you really love. To have it limited to either just the two of you, or have it limited to 10 people or 20 people, when there's 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 that would come. God, I pray that within 6 months, 8 months at the most, it'll be completely back, where you have large crowds of a couple hundred people without their, a threat of a bunch of people getting ill. And so it can get fairly back to normal. I really hope. We've never seen anything. I don't know anybody who was alive in 1918. I think that was the last big influenza. I think it was a Spanish flu or something.
Yeah.
Swept the world, right? I read the other day, I think Chicago World's Fair was in 1918, and I think the Spanish influenza was going around, and they held the fair, and people came from all over the world in Chicago, the World's Fair, and consequently, it spread the virus further because of. I don't know that they didn't think about it. I don't know they didn't think about quarantine as much. I guess they didn't, right? And so we've never faced anything like this, for more than 100 years, right? So in that case, it really is new. It's something new. So what do you do? It's almost like trial and error. You learn as much as you can. You do the best you can, and hopefully, our industry will live again and flourish again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope so. For first and foremost, for all my vendor friends who love what they do, and it's their livelihood, it's who they are and what they do, but also for all these couples who, again, I know they're going to get married. I would hate to have them get married just with the two of them or a small handful of people, when there are dozens or hundreds who would come and share that day with them if they could.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I do see a lot in the some of the wedding groups I'm in, that the vendors are all just like encouraging each other and giving each other hope and trying to defeat this thing as one in our community. So I really like that. And I do have high hopes that it'll get back to normal.
Yeah. And we're all in it together. We're really banding together more than ever during this time.
Definitely.
So I love our community.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, we do have a great group.
Yeah.
Well, kind of lost you there.
I'm here. I'm still here.
There you go.
Awesome. So to kind of wrap things up, this has been so great. I just wanted to ask, do you have any advice for anyone who is interested in becoming a wedding officiant?
I think like anything else, I think there, and I don't mean that. I mean it's more in a practical sense than a spiritual sense. In a spiritual sense, obviously, if you're going to be a pastor, a rabbi, a priest, you probably should have a calling to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't just have the gifts and abilities that you need to do that. Communication skills or counseling skills or administration skills. Those are all really important parts usually of ministry. But you probably should have a spiritual calling from God to be a pastor, priest, or rabbi, right? I think when it comes to being a wedding officiant, you really need a calling for that. I mean, are there people who could be wedding officiants? Yes, they have a certain personality and they could probably do it. But I think eventually, unless you really have a calling to it, something inside says, I really need to do this. Unless you do, I think after a time, it's just going to become just a job. And that's going to reflect itself in the way you do it. You're going to go. You're going to do it. It's going to be like rote. You're going to go by rote. It's going to be like, da 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 da. It's not going to. No energy, no passion, no vibrancy. It's just going to be like the guests and the wedding party is going to say it's just a job. It's no real. It's just another gig, right? So I think if you feel like I think you have to love people. B, you have to have some creativity. There's going to be creating ceremony, right? So A, you have to love people. B, you have to have some kind of creativity. And C, I think you really need to have some kind of, a calling that says, can't not do this. Okay. And so if you have those things, if you have those things, then I think and you can, you don't have to launch into a full time. I mean, you can go down to the courthouse and get a 1-day license to marry people. So, if you have a cousin, if you have a friend, if you have a brother-in-law, if you have a brother or somebody that is going to get married and they're on a budget and they don't, and you maybe offer to marry them, you got to start somewhere, so offer to marry them for free, go down and get a 1-day license, create something and rehearse it a whole bunch and then perform the wedding. And then after it's over, say, well, can I live without this or do I have to do this again? I got to do this again, and you'll soon discover whether or not it's for you, whether or not you really have a calling, a passion for it, whether you have the creativity to it,
That's I definitely agree that your passion reflects into your work. So just don't do it to do it. You got to have that passion because it will show eventually in time. It will, like dwindling out
rather than just going through the motions.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, hire Rick.
All the passion.
Yeah. But again, I do want to give a shout out to, and I know I'm forgetting some, and I feel terrible about that, but I do want to give a shout out to all of my other, officiant friends who do a great job. I appreciate them, and I would name their all name, but I know I'm going to forget somebody, so I won't name names again. I know I've named 4 or 5 already in the podcast, but they are great people. And if I'm not available, I always send people their way.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Because I feel really good knowing that those people have the same passion. We may have our skill sets may be a little different, but they have the same passion I do, and they will put forth the same effort that I would in giving an incredible ceremony. And so I'm honored to work with those people and guys like you and other vendors. Like I tell couples, there's nothing not to like about my job. Yeah. And part of the reason is because of the people I get to work with. We all, during the course of our life, we all have jobs that we've loved. We all have jobs that we've not liked very much at all. And the key ingredient, whether we like the job or not, are the people we work with, right? I mean, some jobs we stayed at, even though we could have made more money someplace else, simply because we liked the atmosphere we went to every day. We like to be with, right?
Yep.
I would rather take less money and work with people I like than make more money than work with people I like at all. Because that's miserable. It's miserable to do that. To go to work every day and be in an environment where you don't like anybody you work with for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I get to work in an environment, every weekend with people that are just, fun and passionate about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're
celebrate love.
Yep.
Celebrate love. That's it.
Rick, this has been amazing. We've loved hearing your story and everything you've had to offer. Your advice is nonstop entertaining and great. But just wrap things up, can you let people know where to find you at? Website, social medias?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yes. So you can find me first and foremost at avowceremony.com, AVOW ceremony.com, avowceremony.com. Wedding Wire, I'm on Wedding Wire. So if you type in Wedding Wire, look for Officiants in Santa Barbara County, you'll find me there. I can be reached. I would suggest people go to avowceremony.com because there's all different stuff, all sorts of everything you want to know about me is on there. You can also reach me by phone, talk to me directly, 805-550-1371. Yeah, I guess that's probably about it. I mean, if you really want to find me, I'm not hard to find. So, again, if any couples listen to this, I'd be honored to talk to you. And if I'm not the right fit for you, I'll certainly let you know. And I think you would know. And I would certainly send you in a direction you find the best person for your big day. Because you deserve, as a couple getting married, you deserve the best people working for you and with you to make your day everything that you dreamed it would be. Derek, I don't know you as well as Jade. You have an amazing wife, a wonderful person, very talented.
Thank you.
I know you're a guy with a character, and I just appreciate you so much. It's been I had no idea we'd go for more than an hour, but I really
This is amazing.
This has been awesome, Rick. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed every minute of it because, I was voted in high school, least likely, back in, I think they still do it, but probably when you were in high school, they still did it. But in the yearbook, you were nominated for things, most athletic, best looking couple, most likely to succeed, right?
Yeah.
I was nominated most likely never to run out of anything to say, right? He talks way too much. But again, I love this kind of stuff. Dialoguing, communicating, conversing with people. So thank you for this privilege of having this time to talk and share. Stay safe, be well. God bless you both.
Man, Rick is amazing. It's super cool to hear the ins and outs of the wedding ceremony and hear the life of a full-time wedding officiant.
Yeah, it was. Rick gave some amazing tips left and right. He shared some wonderful stories and lots of inspiration.
Yeah, he did. As always, guys, thanks again for tuning in to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. Till then, we'll catch you on episode number 8.